So, Market Trade Group, this is your end of day market recap for Thursday, the 28th. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through in this video is for information purposes only. You can read the full risk disclaimer right there. Well, we've got one more day left of August to get through. We do have it should be an interesting day tomorrow. It's been an interesting week. It's been a very interesting month, by the way. In terms of what we need to get through tomorrow, we get another gauge of inflation. That's the PCE, that's the price index month over month. They're going to be looking for 0.2% month over month. And then the core PCE month over month, they're looking for 0.3. So that could drive some of the performance for tomorrow. If that number comes in hotter than expected, the market might be a little bit weak on that. I would expect things like IWM to maybe give back some of the recent performance. And that, again, that's if the number comes in higher than expected. If the number comes in line or a little bit under, then we probably do the same thing, with one small footnote to that in a second. But I did, for tomorrow, what I did was I added a little bit of IWM puts, like literally for 20 cents, just as a hedge for tomorrow. I added the puts that expire tomorrow, August 29th. 234 puts. I added those for like 21 cents. So 21 cents for a hedge for tomorrow makes sense to me. I can kind of rest easy with the positions that I have on. And that's what a lot of times I think people forget, that options can be used for just that, hedging your portfolio or putting on something to kind of protect a little bit. I know that options are used so much now for speculation, but really, for me, I'm always concerned with these one-off events that we don't know what we're going to get for tomorrow. So therefore, on an unknown event, you put down a little bit of a trade, and this way you have protection. Now, of course, you could go the other way if you want to speculate too, but I'm more worried about some of the unknown events. So and I mentioned one other footnote for tomorrow. Tomorrow is end of month. Those are always a little bit tricky for me. So I would also add that, sometimes there's some type of pension rebalancing that happens at the end of the month. So for me, it might be a good day. We're going to be going into a 3-day weekend. You can make it a 4-day weekend if you want, and if you've had a pretty good month. So by the way, since we're almost, and I'll do this tomorrow, I'll go over the performance for the month, but I tell you, this was a pretty strong month for August in particular is not a seasonal strong month. July is, but August isn't supposed to be. And the S&P was up 2.7% for the month. Now Qs trailed a little bit for the month, but still up 2.1%. That's a great August. And look at the small caps for the month that finished 7.7% higher for the month. That's a heck of a month for the small caps. So I'm going to say it again. We're going to be entering September. That is a weaker month. I think that there's a number of different things that could happen in September. I'm not going to predict, because I'm better at just following the price action. And my goal every day is just to be on the right side of the price action. Right? I see so many people struggling with this, where they're always looking for something that's could go wrong, or like, oh my God, the market shouldn't be doing this. Right? That's not any of our concern. I mean, of course, always want to know where there's events like tomorrow with the PCE that could, possibly change direction. Certainly we saw that last Friday with Powell's speech. That there was event risk with that, and obviously the market rallied hard on that. So, it's important to kind of know when there's things that could derail things or change things. But, there's so much of that, I see trying to predict things, or like I see people say, oh, this is supposed to happen and this is supposed to happen. What could go wrong? Like, you could play that game all day long. Really, and it shouldn't be the hardest thing, but it is one of the hardest things, because social media kind of barrages us with this stuff, is just to kind of keep a level head and really dial out some of that noise. None of that stuff is really helpful. And what's the important thing is to do your research, figure out what is um, what is trending, and just be on the right side of the market and try to basically have some trades on that the market might think positively of. And that's it, and manage risk and appropriately. But that's the goal, and that will be the goal, of course, for September for me, is just to kind of make sure that I'm on the right side of the market, make adjustments as you go along, and understand that you're going to have to execute your trading plan and be smart with executing your trading plan. Let's get to some of the performance. So again, just a little like overall thoughts for how this month went and possible what could happen for next month. And I think for one thing, and I'll just say this last thing and then I'll get on to today's price action. But it is possible that we rally into that September 17th FOMC, kind of a buy the rumor uh, type trade, and then sell the news once we actually, if we do have that rate cut, maybe that's where we get the September weakness, is once they actually cut interest rates, there might be a sell the news reaction. That's kind of what I'm thinking. And again, I can have all kinds of things and ideas, but it's important to kind of prepare for a few different scenarios. But that's where my head is at. But of course, I'm not going to stay rigid to what I think could happen, and I'll plan accordingly if things change before then. All right, so what did well today? Finally, the Qs had a big day, which is kind of interesting because NVIDIA really didn't do much, right? NVIDIA was the name that everybody was watching, but there was, honestly, I think that there was, now, sorry, let me make sure I finish my thought here. I thought I thought what we heard from NVIDIA was important in terms of that AI is still a theme. It's an important theme in this market, and I don't think it's going away anytime in like the next couple weeks, right? In the short term. So I think, and looking upon the price action that you saw today, uranium names did very well today. There is still going to be a need, not just because of AI, but because of how energy is being used around the globe. There's a much more friendlier take on nuclear energy, and hence nuclear names and uranium are doing very well this year, and I think will continue to do that way, because you've heard just a complete change in the with like a paradigm shift in terms of, hey, people were shunning nuclear energy and now they're completely open to it, and various different administrations want to get on board with doing that. So yeah, and you need more energy for the AI theme. So I think that's an important thing. I've positioned in some of those names, but I think outside of what NVIDIA told us, and I'm not the one to dissect their numbers to say if they're having a slowdown, like their own company's having a slowdown, or their sales are having a decelerating pace. Like, that's not for me to really get involved in. You can, get that information from analysts and what their take is. But NVIDIA did exactly what I thought it was going to do, which was not do much for earnings. I just thought it had rallied. As I went over in yesterday's video, I kind of compared and contrasted Netflix, which also ran hugely into their report. And I think NVIDIA did that, but to a lesser extent, hence not that big of a price action today. But what was some of the other things that were really of interest were what CrowdStrike did today, what Pure Storage did today, what Snowflake did today. So tech had a really good day, and that's kind of just what I wanted to go over here with these names that were outperforming. So let me get to some charts, and we'll go over quite a bit of charts. I'm going to try to go through them pretty quickly, but I thought that there was some really interesting price action. But I'm going to start with just one that didn't move today, which was NVIDIA. And again, I don't think that there's anything wrong with the company. I think that they have great management, but again, they just rallied a lot, and they're consolidating right now. Now they might break one way or another. They talked a lot about China. They did go up this morning on a report that maybe they can start selling their more advanced chips to China and as well. And I think I didn't listen to the interview, but Jensen, I believe, said that that's going to take a while before that something like that could get approved. I think that makes perfect sense. So I just wanted to start with that chart. But again, this had so many implications of names besides NVIDIA. And again, I thought that would be the case because I think NVIDIA earnings affect so many other names. So, a couple names that I thought were interesting was like CRDO. And by the way, like here's what the SMH ETF looks like, right? This made a new high a couple weeks back. Or this is in the back in the around the 14th, 15th of August, and it kind of dipped all the way back into the 50-day moving average, held it and bounced, right? But look at XSD, right? This is the equally weighted semiconductor ETF. Notice that this has popped out to new highs. Also had a more shallow dip than the overall SMH did. So what is that telling me? It's telling me that the equally weighted, which is not top heavy, NVIDIA and Intel and AMD, right, and Broadcom, it tells me that there's a lot of strength underneath that in some of the smaller names right now. And I know, many of you like to trade some of those names. You like to trade the Astera Labs and the CRDO. Look at what Rambus did today. Right? This is a name that I've previously covered. A shame on me because I didn't put the trade on. But this made a nice move up to this VPOC, which I thought could get taken out. Thought it was going to do it in here after the earnings. It didn't, and then it kind of came back in. But this was a nice buying opportunity in Rambus. So very nice move. I mentioned CRDO. Reminder that they're going to report in the beginning of next week, but this name made it out to new highs. Astera Labs did great today. Not back to those new highs yet, but very strong and very nice since that turn in that turn higher. What else did I see in this group that was strong? SMTC. Again, there's a few smaller names too. Like this they had good earnings the other day. Nice move out of this sideways move and higher. I think this is going to make it or it's headed towards this VPOC here. I think that's where it could definitely go. AEHR would had some good news earlier in the week. Had this two little digestion, or maybe just one digestion day into the 5-day moving average. And look at this thing go. And there's a VPOC up here, which is about 4.9% ahead at 28.39. So in any event, that was a very interesting, noteworthy group for the day. And then CrowdStrike had a big turnaround yesterday. Look at the stock was up almost 5% for the day. And that's a big turnaround from where this was. So that's why I took a shot at CrowdStrike on earnings. I described that in the Substack. Let's see if I have this up here somewhere in here. Just stop the screen share just for a second. See if I can find that note from yesterday. Let's see. Let me go to post somewhere in here. Thank you for your patience, by the way. All right, here we go. All right, so this is from the post yesterday. I had talked about just that the risk reward was kind of set up for this. The options were implying a 7.8% move. Here was the two different trades that I thought were interesting, and I did actually both of these. I did the 447, 457, 467 and a half call fly for, sorry, there's a typo in here, for 70 cents. And I was able to take that off for a decent profit today at $1.25. I still am holding some of that trade. And then the 445, 455 call spread. And again, I just thought that it had come in enough. And even though their guidance wasn't wonderful, which is why the stock initially went lower, it just to me set up. And I thought that the cyber group was washed out enough and worthy of taking a shot on it. What's nice about the butterflies is you don't have to put down a lot of money. Now you do have to get the direct, not only you have to get the direction right, but the magnitude of the move correct. But they are a little bit easier, especially when there's a high implied move for earnings, such as CrowdStrike was mentioning. But look at what this did to the group. RBRK had a nice day today out of this sideways range. Let's see if we can get some follow through here for RBRK, but it just woke up the whole group. Here's Cloudflare, which I like as well. By the way, I'm long all of these, not all of these. I'm long Cloudflare, RBRK, and Zscaler in the TTG trend portfolio. I've hung on to them. That portfolio has 50 names in it, by the way. So I can be I could take some opportunities in some names like this, even though this has been kind of trending down a little bit. And reminder that this has earnings next week as well. But I've tried to hang on to some of the names that I think are pretty good in the cyberspace, even though the whole group has been underperforming for a bit. Cloudflare was a more recent entry after their earnings. All right, so that's that space. Palo Alto, by the way, remember they had earnings about a week ago, and they had a nice gap up, but they went right into resistance. Right, so it took a little while. They kind of digested and then moved back a bit. So just get rid of this screen. What else do I want to go over? Just a few more of the AI type plays. Here was Arista Networks. Now, I'm not long this one, but kind of one that I do want to be long. They had strong earnings. They came in a little bit from earnings, not much, and then moved higher. The uranium names, which, like I said, I've been talking a lot about this group. I wrote a lot about them in a note a couple back on Tuesday, it was, and a few different names that that I wanted to go over here, and I'm going to start with LEU, Citrus Energy, which did break inside its value area for the month, also above the 50-day moving average. So I am long this one, and a very easy, simple setup here. If it breaks back below the value area for the month, as well as the 50-day moving average, I'm out of it. OKLO is another one that gets a lot of attention. Had a nice day today. A little bit of rejection there the other day, but strong. GEV, which does power, back above the value area. Did not close on the highs, but still up 1.8%. UUUU. Had this big move the other day. I would keep an eye on this one. Nice little consolidation into the 5-day moving average. Next group to kind of go over more of software. AppLovin had a nice day today that takes out the pivot from here. So strong earnings, nice check back, and break out to new highs. So I could go over like another five or six names, but I think that's really helped in terms of names that have had strong earnings. They check back, and most of them just rev back up again. And that's just, it is what it is. We're in a bull market. And that's what names are doing. Next, if you want to think about something a little bit riskier, because I think the solar group is, I really like this check back to the 50-day, not to the 50, but to the 20-day moving average. Also note how they're like the 20 and the 50-day moving average are now ascending. So the price is kind of tracking here. So I would be mindful that this is, again, a tough group, but I think better to play this group on a nice check back to the 20-day moving average than to play something that's a little bit extended. Another name in the space I'm watching is NXT. Has not broken this yet, but I would maybe set it. I have an alert on this one to see if this will break out of this consolidation. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. But overall, great day. I kind of feel like this could be sorry, I'm just going to put this scroll the where you can find our Substack note out, but I kind of feel like this should be the last trading day of the month, which means for me, like, be careful with tomorrow. There could always, with the possibility of like pension rebalancing, that could kind of cause some systematic type moves for tomorrow, the last trading day of the month. They're not my favorite days, the last trading day of the month. So just be mindful that it will be lower volume and could be some whippy price action tomorrow. Guys, have a great night. What a nice